Okay, all right. So if you don't know this, if you a young woman and you getting off at the airport in Atlanta, oh, it's going to be old seedy looking Mother Hunchy right there waiting on your ass. Okay? Hey, you looking for me? Never. Never. Why would I be looking at your old drunk, skinny, looking like your suit is way too big ass? Hello there, Bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share the Facebook, and subscribe because it is so important to our success here on the YouTube. And if you are not already a part of our book club, please remember to hit the Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube, and for a small monthly fee of $5. You babies, yes, you can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, let's talk about George Clinton's Brothers Be Yo, like George ain't that funkin' kind of hard on you. Part, I think this is 4 or 5. You got Ray Noma selling, the I guess you can call it the bootleg My Guy cut out the back of her trunk. George Clinton across the street. He ain't saying, hey girl, hey Ray Noma. Nothing. He's just watching because he's seen a couple of men walk over to Ray Noma talking about they the FBI. FBI? Bootlegging is federal. But anyway, they started hassling her, right? So George Clinton had came up with the notion that, I think that's Barry. I think Barry sent them over there to her. A lot of people speculated that Barry Gordy hired these people to, shake up Ray Noma because he was mad at Ray Noma because she moved on with a new dude. Why you care? Shoot, I can't stand a controlling ass motherfucker. Anyway, he gave her a healthy amount of cash, reabsorbed Joe back, and that was the end of Ray Gordy's publishing career at Motown. That was also the end of mine fairly soon. Gene Redding was a producer at King Records, which had started as a country music label specializing in hillbilly records and evolved into an important R&B label. They released music by James Brown and Roy Brown and Otis Williams and lots of other peoples. Somehow, Gene got himself a deal out in Detroit where Sydney and I were traveling regularly as a result of the Joe Bet Works. One of the weekends we were out there, we met Ed Wingate. Now, Ed Wingate is a square dude that had enough money to be popular, okay? That all Ed wanted to do was just be cool with everybody. It's like he bought his cool. But everybody thought he was cool, but only because he had money. Okay, that's not real cool. That's money, okay? Because you could be cool and broke. Early on, Mr. Wingate used to fly me out to Detroit and let me stay at his house, a huge place on Edison. Soon, Mr. Wingate wanted me and Sydney to be his go-to writers and production team, and he had visions of us leading him to the heights the same way that the Motown production teams had elevated Barry. So you have George Clinton, Sydney, Mike Terry, and a woman named Pat Lewis who had been in the Adorables and would later be a backup singer for Isaac Hayes and Aretha Franklin. We were in the room coming up with lyrics and melodies for hours. Eventually, we had songs. Can't Shake It Loose for Pat and the Adorables, and I'll Bet You for Teresa Lindsay. Later on, with Funkadelic, we repossessed and remade both of them. And they were also covered by Motown groups Can't Shake It Loose by the Supremes and I'll Bet You by the Jackson 5. Okay, so we just talked about Pat Lewis, right? They used to sing with the Adorables and eventually sang with Isaac Hayes and Aretha Franklin, backup singing, right? And what he said was that Mr. Wingate wasn't playing no games with him, okay? I mean, I can dig it because you really don't want your artists hunching each other because, you know, it's good while it's good. But when it ain't good, you know, then you got the women around there, you know, dealing with their emotions while they trying to work, okay? If I was a celebrity or a star like that, I wouldn't want to be in a relationship unless I was in a relationship before I got there because man, you can't think. That's why a lot of people don't want to deal with female artists because we too emotional. You know who else was dealing with that? Fredia. You know, I watched her show where she was on tour and her dude is somewhere back at home and I don't know where in Louisiana somewhere, and she could not, or Fredia could not get herself together. She was too busy worrying about what her boyfriend was doing. She'd been with that ninja forever, okay? But that was a hard task for her. I remember that. What was the name of the show? But that was definitely a hard task, and I did feel sorry for Fredia because Joe, how can you concentrate and make money when you worried about if your dude is locked up or what girl he hunching on because her dude, I don't know if she lives as a man or woman. Let me shut the fuck up. Mr. Wingate saw that George Clinton was into Pat Lewis, okay? Halt! You will not be hunching my artist, George Clinton. Don't you got a wife back home? George Clinton say that Mr. Wingate wanted him to respect work limitations, okay? Because like I said, you don't want to be dealing with all that emotion. That emotion gets in the way of productivity. I said it. He knew that George Clinton was a piece of work, okay? And you will not be taking advantage of my girl, Pat Lewis. Out there in the Midwest, I started running into the pimp element. I had always seen those kind of guys back east, but this was different. In New Jersey, the word was never spoken. Pimps had a certain life that they lived with style and even a certain dignity. Much later, when we invented the character of Sir Nose, we'd find out how New Yorkers felt about pimp culture. In Detroit, the pimp culture was straight raw. Okay, so this is funny to me because I feel that way about the South, you know, whereas, you know how, okay, all right, so if you don't know this, if you a young woman and you getting off at the airport in Atlanta, oh, it's going to be old seedy looking Mother Hunchy right there waiting on your ass, okay? Hey, you looking for me? Never. Why would I be looking at your old drunk, skinny, looking like your suit is way too big ass? That's what they do. They wait for girls at the airport coming down here to Atlanta to either start stripping or something like that. And they look a mess, okay? A freaking mess, all right? You can't get nothing with that unless the girls is a mess too, okay? Now, yes, you a mess girl. You can go, you know, walk behind this mess man, okay? Detroit was a strange mix. Country, but also real slick because of Motown and the car companies. The result was a style that was about a half step back. Out in Detroit, they had their hair processed but didn't get it combed out. You might see a dude rolling down Hastings Street behind the wheel of a deuce and a quarter. That was the Buick Electra, which was named for the overall length of the car in inches. That was considered a top flight ride there. But it would have been laughable in New York, where the minimum requirement would be a Cadillac Eldorado. I told you you ain't made shit or got shit until you got your old Cadillac, okay? The Cadillac, my wife has a Cadillac, okay? That's the car of stars and pimps. The clothes were the final thing. Detroit pimps wore store-bought suits. In New York, you couldn't be pimping and buy no goddamn store-bought suits. We had our clothes made from grade school, and we handed them down to younger kids. But Detroit was off the rack. Even Motown artists bought their clothes off the rack. Oh, you ninja, you bird of Gordy. You mean to tell me you sending them damn boys around there to the K&G and telling them to pick out a suit in their size? You playing with me. I I thought y'all had an old seamstress in the back making them clothes for them damn Temptations and them Supremes and the Marvelettes and all that other stuff. That's what I thought was going on. The shame of it all. But when I think about it, every Motown book that I read or every book that is affiliated with Motown, they talk about etiquette, they talk about class, gloves and singing styles and standing still and looking at the crowd, smiling. But they never talk about a seamstress. Several books that said the people around there at the Motown, because they wasn't getting paid like that from Bird or Gordy, that they had bitches on the side selling vagina for them, okay? And what George Clinton said was that the best looking group was the Four Tops. They been around, okay? They ain't just, was here in Detroit. They done been around and they done seen some things. George Clinton said that they were suspiciously well-dressed. Now, at the time Motown dominated the scene, I was still in awe of the label, but running parallel to them. And running parallel means you're on a different track. That difference between us, that distance, would become even clearer in the years ahead. Remember when Rickety James went to Motown first, they was like, no, we don't even know what you are. No, answer no, okay? But then when he came back around and hit him with all that good funk music, Bird Gordy was like, okay, all right, let me stand down. All right, are we gonna go in a different direction? You better. Because Rickety James saved your asses, okay? Them. Who else came after the Rickety James? El DeBarge, okay? Saved. Back in Jersey. Okay, heads were being cut just like they were supposed to. Okay, he doing what he's supposed to do. He had his man Eddie Wolfgang, Grimes, and the rest of them were holding down the fort for the most part. I was away as often as I was there, leaving regularly to work on the music. I was also doing something with somebody, though, even when I was in the shop. I tried to keep the focus on the music. We knew all about Burt Bacharach, who was the king at that time because of his work with Dionne Warwick, who was a local girl. We know that from the first part. It was heartwarming to see somebody you knew become big all of a sudden. We knew all about Curtis Mayfield, who was like a one-man Motown. He had that amazing spiritual impression sound and an incredible, strong sense of his own songwriting. For Your Precious Love had come out when I was in high school, and then when Jerry Butler left the group, and it looked like Curtis might falter without a lead singer, he just turned around and released Gypsy Woman, which became their biggest single. Around 1960 or 1961, everyone wanted to be Curtis, almost as much as everyone wanted to be Smokey. But the biggest of them all, at least for a little while, was Sam Cooke. He came to the barbershop once or twice, and he was like a cool pimp. When you met him, so smooth, with quiet confidence. Ladies loved him, of course, because he was handsome and he seemed to always be on top of his game. I admired him for his business sense, with the way he had set up his own label, SAR, where he signed and promoted other groups like the Valentinos and the Sims Twins. So now we're in the 60s, okay? This reminds me of the Etta James book where she talks about how there's a new generation of white rock and rollers, okay? He speaks of the Beatles, he talks about Bob Dylan and the Rolling Stones. These people were not apologetic for their rage against the machine. They were in your face about it, and they were standing 10 toes planted in it. And he liked it. In those early days, music was anything but simple. I was trying to strike a balance between being a fan who heard his favorite music on the radio, an aspiring songwriter who wanted to hear his own work on the same stations, and a group leader who was trying to keep those same aspirations alive in others. The barbershop was a big help in maintaining perspective, okay? Because we all know that the barbershop is a place where people go to shoot the breeze, talk trash, brag, because it seemed like that's all, something to just do while they in the shop, brag and get their ass beat, especially his barbershop, and nod, okay? He was saying while he was there, it was some OGs that kept him in place, that checked him. And even though some of the parliaments were pretty old, I didn't know this. Okay, George Clinton, like 2021, and then he got people that are part of the parliaments like this. He said Grimes was in his 30s and Wolfgang's was in his mid 40s. What the world? So you mean to tell me these brothers is old as hell? The age disparage between them? No wonder Bertie Gordy didn't want them. So what he said about the barbershop, was that the old cats were responsible for keeping him humble. Okay? In this part, I would say that age equals wisdom. Okay? Now, not all the time, because some people don't learn and grow from their negative experiences. Some people seek revenge and live their life, in a place of anger because, this messed up thing happened to me, so I'm going to be like this, instead of growing past whatever negative experience, But in the barbershop, you can learn so much, if you listen. He attributes a lot of his perspective from the knowledge that he gained in the barbershop. I didn't cat around in Detroit exactly. Like I said, Mr. Wingate frowned on that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean that I was an ideal husband. We knew that, child. Episode 2, we knew that you wasn't an ideal husband. But anyway, when I was back in New Jersey, I couldn't concentrate on home. And I was starting to go with other girls. Now, if you have not already done so, please remember to like, share the Facebook, and subscribe, because it is so important to our success here on the YouTube. Now, remember this. The same people that you meet on the way up will be the same people that you meet on the way down. My naysayers, my patron loves. You babies, have a good one.